Hi, Bryony.
Good morning, Paul. Hi.
Good morning. It is lovely to have you being interviewed, or for us to have this open discussion around, your wonderful talents and how it relates to the work of Disrupt Space Limited. So first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
Well, as you know, and I know you've been fully involved in this over the month of May and June, we are interviewing and having conversations with our artists. You being one of our latest additions. So can let's kick off. Tell us about Bryony, like your career, how you got to how you got to where you are at the moment. I know you've got a company. So tell us about Bryony.
So my background is that I studied art at GCSE and A-level, and went on to study fine art painting at Bath Spa University, and left my degree with and then left and tried to become an artist without any kind of real preparation. I think that's something that fine art degrees have improved upon since, but
okay.
Like
perfect.
In terms of career prep, it wasn't. It could have been better. So I spent a few years being part of different collectives and artist groups and exhibiting, but not really making a career of my artwork. And I decided to undertake a master's in museology, which is the theory of museums, because museums have been a real source of inspiration for me as an artist. And I guess I kind of originally went into that field thinking that would be a really good way to keep fueling my artwork. If I'm working directly with these collections and with different artists and designers and exhibiting these collections, then that would inspire my work. And that has happened. But it's also led to a really amazing kind of 11 years or so of working in various different social history and science and art exhibitions and museums. And I've had the privilege of working with some extraordinary kind of national collections. And it was in 2013 that I decided to kind of really commit to my art practice, and I set up the company Bryony and Bloom, or a studio. And through that, I started off making homeware products. The last few years, I've been doing street art, murals, and really kind of expanding my painting practice. So I'm spending more time doing that right now. And I'm also just about to launch a zine project, which I really hope I can kind of launch during this week's artist takeover.
Great, looking forward to that.
And then my museum life has taken me to working in science, and so I'm now actually public engagement manager at the Francis Crick Institute, which is biomedical research institute. So my role is to develop exhibitions for the public.
So you and I have got a professional history, and I didn't know that you were an incredibly talented artist. And the more I actually sit with your art and try to appreciate, what it is that you're doing, the more I'm absolutely certain that you're scratching on the surface here of something that's really quite profound. I'm not sure how that takes you, but I do feel it. I do feel it. I absolutely do. There was one piece that I came across, which I'm not sure if it's one of your later pieces, that starts to kind of move into that realm of spirituality. And I think the word ghost is used. Yeah. And I want you to tell me about your art. I want you to kind of, what are you up to, Bryony?
What am I up to? The painting you're talking about, that was actually really inspired by a collaboration with evolutionary biologists at University of Bath. I had an award to work with a team there, and they were, they're all kind of doing some extraordinary research in lots of different areas. But what really grabbed my imagination was they were talking to me about anachronistic fruits and plants that existed at the time of dinosaurs and had that kind of symbiotic and that kind of relationship with animals that have long since become extinct, but they have not yet caught up and
Wow.
evolved and changed. So they don't have their dispersers anymore. And that kind of really opened my eyes. So soon after that, I went to the Caribbean, and I was really kind of walking around in the forests there and really kind of looking again at some of the extraordinary seeds and fruits, you know, hanging from these trees, and wondering actually from how long have they been that's in this state, in this form, and what kind of worlds have they witnessed, I guess. A lot of my work is kind of tagged with plants were here first, and I really love that sense of time, and thinking about I guess how fleeting our presence is on this earth, but kind of thinking about what the landscape has witnessed that we can't possibly imagine.
I mean, the work is really characterized by kind of plants, horticulture, and it's in a range of environments.
Yeah, I guess the thread is, even if it's in inner city London or, like, you know, an Indonesian rainforest, I'm really inspired by wild nature, particularly in urban environments. I really love studying and, you know, kind of celebrating those plants that grow through cracks in the walls or in the pavements.
Is it that you're inspired by the natural life in that sense? Or is there more going on for you here in terms of kind of big environmental issues of the day?
I'm not going to change the world with a painting, right? And it's not a one woman task. It's a collective task. I am very, very concerned about the state of our environment and climate. It's, you know, the biggest issue. It does drive my work, but the work that I'm producing is less about kind of beating people over the head with that and kind of tearing ourselves apart over it, and more about, I guess my intention is to perhaps encourage others to see how we are part of the wider ecology, that we are nature. Nature is not out there, we're in it, and actually we're a really small part of it. And perhaps that might unlock, I don't know, more of a kind of a sense of our connection to wild nature, and therefore if we feel part of something, we're going to want to protect it. So I guess I'm seeing it, you know, way at very early kind of stages of kind of activism. Perhaps my work can just plant some seeds and support people as they become more engaged in the collective response to the crisis we're facing.
And there is a real passion coming through your work. I'm going to try and find the words here. There's almost a kind of a virtuous majesty and mystique about you as a person, and how that connects with your art. Your art is a wonderful reflection of you. That's my experience.
Blimey. Those are quite some words.
They're big words, but they're very real. They're very, very real. I mean, if Disrupt Space is to do anything, it's to encourage our emerging brilliant artists, and you are one of them. Here is somebody who's definitely found her niche, who's clearly passionate about this, and it is outpouring, and you can see it. And I also got a sense of your journey as I kind of had a look at the work, and then fascinated again how you're applying it, you know, to canvas as well as to kind of like the urban brick wall, you know, and engaging communities. So I put it to you, yeah, that this quiet, I'm not going to say unassuming, because it almost assumes a kind of an invisibility. You know, you're not invisible, but there is a quiet nature about you. And I would imagine that under that surface, there's quite a disruptor.
Yeah, I reckon. Yeah, there's obviously a reason why I was drawn to Disrupt Space, right?
Right.
Am I a disruptor? I think I get a real thrill about painting in public spaces. I really do love community engagement around kind of street art. I'm a goody two shoes, so I do paint murals with permission. So,
Okay.
but still is a surprising, you know, it's still a spectacle to be painting out in the streets of of Archway or, you know, Hammersmith or whatever, down alleyways. Like, and I love what that sparks. I love the conversations that I have with people who happen across this creating. I really do love the concept of disrupt space, of taking art into spaces that aren't the kind of, you know, typical gallery museum where the typical audience is, you know, really kind of increasing access to art. And so, yeah, so street art for me is an act of that. And it's also about kind of really trying to, I guess, interrupt that kind of almost mindless journey through the urban kind of sprawl, where we're just kind of bombarded with advertising and messages, and we're all on our phones and kind of plugged in. And yeah, I like to interrupt that with huge, bombastic, brightly colourful depictions of plants on a kind of a macro scale that really kind of makes the viewer feel small. That's the intention of kind of really kind of, I guess, yeah, disrupting that understanding of our relationship with the botanical world.
Can you see stages of development for you, and can you see where it's going?
Right now I'm working on a new body of work, and I've got about 10-15 paintings on the go at the moment, and they're really kind of thinking a lot more about time. I'm doing a lot of work that's kind of exploring my own ancestry, and I'm doing a lot of research into kind of mythology and folklore and legends connected to the land.
I love some of the kind of visual stuff that you put out on Instagram, you know, where you're there in nature, you know, completely surrounded by plant life. How do you go about creating a piece? How does it go from inspiration to finished product?
The inspiration, you know, it comes from being outside, obviously. Like it comes from trekking and walking through different landscapes. Yeah, I capture inspiration, you know, by taking photographs, of course, but also, and I love sharing them on Instagram and Facebook and things. But I'm also very often armed with a sketch pad and pencils, you know, and I come back to the studio with those studies and I collect them around me. I will also do quite a lot of reading. When lockdown is over, you know, I get into archives and museum collections, and quite often kind of try and do some primary kind of source research around the cultures or the kind of the history of those landscapes. It's a process of collecting, and it's only when I've got kind of a grouping together that I feel is saying something that I will then start to work on a painting. I often have several paintings that I'm working on at the same time, and I kind of move between them as the materials require, because I work a lot in oils, and I like to work in layers, so that necessitates kind of waiting, pausing whilst the layer dries, and then that interruption in the process is quite handy for me, because it means that I can step back and really kind of contemplate, okay, so what am I saying next? What do I want to bring in next? I love working in oils. I absolutely love the colour and the texture of oils. But I am really excited about this new phase where it's really experimenting with lots of different materials and yeah, hoping to kind of leap off the canvas into more kind of spatial installation works maybe in the future.
I'm mindful also that there's Bryony the artist and there's Bryony the curator. Is that something that that you really want to develop further as well? Where's that coming from, and what's your thoughts about curating going forward?
What really excites me about getting involved in Disrupt Space is the fact that you are championing young emerging Black British artists, and I am really proud to be part of that. I'm so far absolutely kind of loving the conversations I'm having with the artists I've met. They're just all fascinating, coming, you know, from completely different angles, and just really deeply kind of thoughtful and, you know, intelligent young artists. And yeah, to be part of the team that's kind of creating space for those voices is something that's, you know, is rewarding, will be very rewarding. And I think that's kind of what's driving my choices in terms of curatorial projects. You know, at the Francis Crick Institute, what really drives me is access to the science, the language, and and the complexity of the science being undertaken there. It could be very exclusive, and I find the challenge of opening up spaces for inviting in people who perhaps don't feel like they maybe belong in those spaces, inviting them in and making sure that the experience is inclusive and accessible and enchanting as well as educational, inspiring. That's what motivates me curatorially. So more projects like that, for sure.
From the Amazon rainforest through to Hackney Downs and across a whole range of disciplines, talents, practices, there's this incredible professionalism that you have. I absolutely knew that our conversation was going to start at 10 o'clock. Yep, it certainly was. It wasn't going to start a minute earlier or a minute later, right? It's Bryony.
That's the project manager of me.
I know, and it's great. But you've got that, and quite flip mode. We can be talking about dinosaurs, right? and ghosts, and engaging with communities and people. I mean, yeah, it's a real pleasure to have you as part of the team. You do not do narrow at all, right? This is fully immersive, expansive, but with it is real quality, and you always, I get the feeling that you glow when others glow as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, you want to see other people thrive and excel as well, and that combination of qualities is really quite superb. And I want to thank you for being a part of the team. I mean,
my absolute pleasure. Yeah, no, I can't wait to see what we create.
Yeah. And what we disrupt.
Yes.
There it is. Look, I can see it. I knew I could see it, right? You just come to life again. I know you're a troublemaker. Welcome to the team.